How's it going? You're welcome along to Fridays Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 9 o'clock this evening. Busy show ahead. We're going to hear from Tommy Walsh ahead of the Allianz Hurling League final between Kilkenny and Tipperary. Big weekend in the Premier League. Merseyside and Manchester derbies tomorrow. Dave McIntyre is going to join me in studio to look ahead to those. And as well as that, we'll have a crappy quiz coming your way after 8 o'clock. But really, there is only one place to start this evening. The images of Conor McGregor in handcuffs emerging from the 78th Precinct Jail in Brooklyn, New York, is the shot that is leading all the evening news bulletins. Niall McGrath, MMA reporter and OTB team member, is in New York, has been covering UFC223, but has been sort of sidetracked like everybody else to covering the Conor McGregor story. So Niall, we spoke to you about 9 o'clock last night. At that stage, the video was just emerging and the story was just coming through of Conor McGregor throwing the trolley through the windows of a bus containing several MMA and UFC fighters. What's happened since then? You might talk us through the timeline of the last sort of 18, 20 hours. Yeah, last night I think it was about 2 a.m. Don't quote me on the timelines here. I've had probably an hour's sleep in the last 48 hours. But I think about 2 a.m. The NYPD had confirmed that McGregor had handed himself in. So he was detained. There was charges pending. And at 12 o'clock local time here, I think 7 a.m. back home, Conor was charged on 4 different accounts, 3 assault and 1 misdemeanor, and also one of his teammates, Cian Cowley, is being charged on 1 count of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief. So it's not a good look for Conor, and the fight card here is sort of a little bit all over the place as well. So it's just a bit of a mess at the moment. It's absolute madness. We've become used to a certain degree of madness from Conor McGregor, from throwing bottles at press conferences to hopping into the octagon and having a pop at a referee. But this is at a whole other level. He has injured some fellow competitors. He's cost people an awful lot of money. What's the reaction been like in New York? You know, amongst the fighters anyway, and everyone I've seemed to talk to that's involved in the sport here, you know, even a lot of the staff, it's been a very negative reaction. They're extremely unhappy with Mr. McGregor, and I think there's a feeling that the community doesn't really want him around the sport anymore. So that's what, you know, majorly what I'm feeling. You know, you look at the fighters that have had to pull out of this card or pull off this card. It's going to cause great problems for the UFC. You know, he's probably going to be facing legal issues now as well. So it's crazy stuff altogether. Yeah, he did famously say, "I'm not a company man, I am the company." He's suddenly costing the company a whole lot of money. Yeah, definitely. Like, the UFC are going to be, you know, going to have to pay off all these fighters. They're show money. Obviously, they're going to be threatened to sue by a lot of what went on in the Barclays Centre yesterday. There's going to be multiple, you know, legal issues, I would imagine. So yeah, it's just not been a good 48 hours for the UFC. All of this seems to have been a sort of revenge attack for an incident involving Khabib and Artem Lobov. You might talk us through the background there. Yeah, listen, I arrived in on Tuesday. I was actually on the same flight as Artem over, and in the hotel, Artem was involved in a confrontation with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Artem was surrounded by 9 to 10 members of Khabib's entourage, and literally the UFC put Artem on a media ban as far as I'm aware. He wasn't allowed to talk. I spoke to Khabib at yesterday's press conference. He said, "I don't want to talk about this." And that's where it seems to stem. Would that be very unusual, Niall, that 4 or 5 days before a fight and 2 separate fighters meet each other in the lobby of a hotel and start having a go? Not really. You know, we've seen it happen on numerous amount of occasions. Obviously, there's, you know, a lot of these guys have very big egos. So if there's a spat in social media or something, there generally can be confrontations in the hotels. It was nothing out of the ordinary for me. But then there was rumours of a potential other incident that wasn't caught on video. The first one was caught on video on social media. So, you know, that could have been it. It's all speculation. We've had no word, no line from anyone on what went on with that incident. But that's what stemmed Conor McGregor and the entourage that came over to New York yesterday and stormed the Barclays Centre. And that obviously led to the crazy scenes which we saw last night. Do we know who's part of McGregor's entourage?
Well, Keane Cowley, obviously one of his teammates, and I'm assuming Artem Lobov was there because his fight was removed from the card. Dana White said that. And, I don't think it's fair for me at the moment to name other names on the entourage. So I don't really want to, go down that route until we get maybe more confirmation off the NYPD if anything else is happening.
Paulie Malignaggi's been talking. He was on News Talk Breakfast this morning. He said this may well be a step too far for Conor McGregor.
Hey, listen, the
I agree.
Is always there. I think Conor's really good at the gamesmanship to a degree. I think we've passed we've passed the line to be drawn, though. Like I said, when you're jumping in the Bellator cage in a fight that has nothing to do with you and pushing referees out of the way, stepping over a knocked-out fighter and pushing the referee out of the way, as if it's all about you, it's a bit extreme. Getting into war-room brawls, a bit extreme. And now I think today, picking up guardrails in a Barclays Center, picking up chairs in the Barclays Center, throwing them at the bus and everything. Well, I'll tell you like this, okay? Conor is all big and tough until you get in his face. And then when you get in his face, and you push him back, and you put him in an uncomfortable situation, he's quiet as a mouse. Okay, so here's the problem with Conor McGregor. If he wanted to do what he did today, he didn't have to start throwing guardrails at the Barclays Center and throwing chairs. You go with your crew, you go to the hotel where the buses are going, and you meet everybody at the hotel. And then when they get off the bus, you meet them. If you really want to fight, that's what you do. You see, there's ways of doing it. If you just want to put on a show, and you want to wreak havoc and put on a show and put everybody else into a situation where it's difficult, then you do what Conor McGregor did today. It's not. He doesn't actually want to do anything except get attention. And the past 6 months have been very disrespectful in general to the people that he's done these things with, Okay. And it's a bit extreme. It's somebody, he's not a little kid who's acting out of a temper tantrum. He's a 30-year-old man, so it's not like he doesn't know any better.
Would you still like to fight Conor McGregor in the ring?
If the opportunity presents itself, yeah. I mean, it's like free money. Why not? You know what I'm saying? It's like guys like Conor McGregor in boxing, they're like a piñata for boxers. It's like free money. We did 12 rounds sparring. I wasn't even in shape. I probably wouldn't last 12 rounds with Katie Taylor if I was in that kind of shape that I was in when I boxed Conor McGregor. You know what I mean? I was out of shape, showed up to camp and did 12 rounds with Conor McGregor. That goes to show you how bad, literally what level of bad he is at boxing. So, yeah, of course, it's a simple fight.
Okay.
Even if I'm 37 like I am now, even if I'm 50, it's a simple fight.
God, please don't let us have to start talking about a possible Conor McGregor Paulie Malignaggi fight.
No, listen, I think Paulie's just jumping on the bandwagon there. He's seen a situation that looks probably untenable from everyone else's eyes in Conor's relationship with Dana White and the UFC, and he's trying to make a money train there for himself and potentially look at a Conor McGregor fight. Obviously, they have history from Conor's camp and his build up to the Floyd Mayweather fight. So for Paulie, it does make sense to come out and try and sell something, seeing the situation that's going on here at the moment. But listen, we don't know what's going to happen with Conor in relation to the NYPD here. Obviously, if he gets found guilty with those charges and he's prosecuted, he might be able to fight in the United States.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how that works.
You might talk to us. I was going to ask, because people will remember Conor McGregor emerging from court here in Dublin a few months ago when he had issues over a driving charge, and there was the typical Conor McGregor swagger walking out of court and a cockiness that he was laughing all this off. Whereas you look at him there when he was arrested and he's handcuffed, it was a very quiet, very sullen Conor McGregor. A sense that maybe he does realise that he's gone a step too far?
Well, I think it would be about time if he realised he went a step too far, because, some of the things you've mentioned them off there, Nathan, early on in the broadcast, it's just got out of control and it's reached a crescendo now. And if he can't see and realises what he's done wrong, there's something seriously wrong there, and he shouldn't be involved in combat sports, because it's not setting the example, for the kids that look up to him in the country and everyone else that's involved within the sport, especially in Ireland.
Let's hear from Dana White. He was on American TV earlier. Let's see if from his contact with Conor McGregor, he feels that maybe McGregor is full of remorse.
Yeah, no, right now, no. Absolutely not.
What do you make of, why? What do you make of this?
Do you want to be in business with Conor McGregor right now? Do you want to chase this guy around for interviews and buy his fights? Do you? Yeah, no, I don't think anybody is going to want to right now. No, I think everybody's going to be pretty disgusted with Conor McGregor right now. Listen, you don't like Khabib and you don't like what happened or whatever, then fight Khabib. You can come in here and you can do it legally. Shit, this fight's happening Saturday. We could have talked and made the Khabib fight right after. You could do whatever you wanted to Khabib within the limits of the rules of fighting. But you want to grab 30 fucking friends and come down here and do what you did today? It's disgusting. And I don't think anybody is going to be, huge Conor McGregor fans after this.
You know him in a way that a lot of people don't. What do you make of this?
I don't know. I don't know if he's on drugs or what his deal is, but to come and do this and act like this, and you're talking about a guy who has a baby. He just had a kid. This is how you're acting? You have a son at home. Anyway.
Do you think he came here?
Yeah, Dana White speaking late last night. The police report says he's not on drugs, that he was clean when he was arrested. I say arrested, he did hand himself in late last night, making some strong points there about the responsibility that really Conor McGregor at 29 with a young child at home, and there is a temptation to sort of laugh this off and joke about it. But this could have a major impact on his life going forward if they decide to throw the book at him.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just seeing some. My colleague, obviously, Ariel Helwani, as you know, has just tweeted out here. It's expected that will set bail on a future court date with McGregor, so he'll be able to leave on his own. Whole process will not take very long. Unclear at this time what the bail will be. Also unclear if he'll be able to fly back home. So that's just sort of breaking now in the last couple of minutes. Ariel has just tweeted that out there a moment ago. But yeah, Nathan, it's I'm not sure what they're going to do with Conor. As I said to you, it's very, very worrying. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see, obviously, what Ariel said there in relation to that tweet, in relation whether he's allowed to leave the country here or not. It's all up in the air at the moment. I think we'll wait for a further statement from the New York Police Department.
You've been covering McGregor for years at this stage, Niall. Is your sense that McGregor wants to get back inside the octagon, that he wants to fight in the UFC again, or does he just enjoy the show at this stage, and is he happy just to have the publicity and leave the fighting to the others?
Yeah, this week, a lot of the talk was, Conor and Khabib possibly coming back to New York in December if Khabib was to get the win on Saturday night, and then to throw down there. That was what everyone was sort of talking about until the incident happened. And at this point, I actually don't really care anymore. It's got to that point where so much has been going on with Conor McGregor that I'm almost just sick of it. We're having to come on defend the sport as a mixed martial arts journalist. I'd like to be here talking about the fights at UFC 223, and it's Conor McGregor that I'm having to talk about here when he's not even fighting on the card. Yeah,
it must be incredibly frustrating for journalists and for so many people who are involved in the sport, and it finds itself in the microscope again and again for the wrong reasons. And there are people doing a lot of good work in many ways to try and get MMA to a level where it is more accepted across society. Yet when you have a sideshow like this, and it's not even the sideshow, it is the show when people think of MMA now and UFC, it's hugely damaging. It's hard to get past that. Like, it sets it back years.
100%. Especially obviously back in Ireland. There's obviously been the country hasn't fully accepted the sport, even though there's a huge amount of gyms in the country. It's just never had that mainstream break. It's it's either Conor or no one else. People seem to want to talk about. So it's set it back there. Over in the United States as well, it's ESPN last night. I was watching the TV at all hours in the morning here, trying to get a feel for it, and they were obviously covering the story ahead of their Masters coverage, which just shows you how damaging that is for the reputation of Irish people, I think, worldwide as well. I don't think we're a very popular bunch in New York this week after the incident. But yeah, listen, it sets it back huge amounts, obviously, in relation to what's going on with the government, and obviously I'm trying to get sanctioned in Ireland, and that looks a long way off at this moment.
Has it made its way past ESPN? Has it made its way onto the mainstream media in America?
Yeah, well, everyone seems to be talking about it. Every channel I seem to turn on here, it's been in the sports headlines. So yeah, 100%. It's the talk of the town here in New York at the moment, definitely.
So very briefly then on UFC 223, which somehow is still going ahead with its card absolutely decimated, not just for this reason but because of injuries as well. Is it possible to get a ballpark figure as to how much money this week will cost the UFC? Like, I'm seeing that this is the worst week in the history of the UFC, both monetary and in terms of reputation.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to gauge. I think we'll have to wait. A lot of people would have tuned in to see Khabib, paid, bought the pay-per-view. I think that's going to be something for another day, because we don't even know what the main event is yet. Whether Khabib's going to fight, we don't know if Rose Namajunas is going to defend her strawweight title against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a fantastic rematch. It's just all over the place. Hopefully we'll learn that within literally the next 5 to 10 minutes. We're still waiting on news from the New York Athletic Commission and the UFC to come out with a statement. So it's really all up in the air, but I'd imagine this is going to cost the UFC a fair chunk of cash, with obviously all the injuries and potential legal issues they're going to have after this.
All right, great stuff, Niall. I have a feeling we may talk to you again before the weekend is out. Niall McGrath there, MMA reporter, Off the Ball team member as well, reporting from New York this afternoon.